Greetings, everybody. I wanted to talk a little bit about a DVD that I've had for a long time, and I've seen several times, but I just rewatched it today because today is February the 7th, and that marks 57 years ago today that the Beatles first came to America. And of course, they would go on to do the Ed Sullivan Show and a couple of shows, three shows of the Ed Sullivan, and also, of course, appear at the Washington Coliseum. Anyway, the DVD is the first U.S. visit, and this is, I believe, a second copy of this. This came out originally in 1990, this particular film, and I think it was reissued. This is 2003, and this particular version with this cover is really the one worth having because it has extra features on here. Okay, and in some ways, the extra features are even better and more enjoyable than the actual film. Maybe it's because I've seen the film so many times that I'm used to it already, not as used to the extra features. But of course, this movie was shot as it happened behind the scenes, maybe like one of the first, if not the first, kind of behind the scenes documentaries of rock group like this. It was shot by Albert Maysles and his brother David. And I got to tell you, I love watching this film, but I also like watching it with the audio commentary track by Albert Maysles himself. And he really gives you step-by-step account of what it was like to know the Beatles, to work with the Beatles. They're everything that you always thought they were, how much fun they were, how game they were to play for the camera and everything. And it's an enjoyable commentary on the film itself. By the way, if you're not watching the actual movie, you can when you watch the audio commentary. The movie itself, of course, has so many interesting features. You have the Beatles, of course, when they first come to the U.S., and you have them being interviewed by the press reporters, of course, who were hoping they'd fall on their face and thinking that they could get them and deal a shot or a blow to the Beatles, but they were way ahead of them. They were used to the press already. They knew how to handle the press, and they were very entertaining, the Beatles. And of course, stuff like riding in the limo with all the fans coming up to the window and waving and knocking on the window and trying to get a piece of the Beatles. And it always amazes me when I watch this film how the Beatles, it was kind of new to them. I mean, they'd already had some fame, elsewhere, in England and so on, Sweden, but they hadn't really had it in the U.S. The USA was always, the big mountain to climb. That was the sign that they really made it. And they loved the American music, and they always wanted to conquer America. And you get this feeling that their game at this point to, as I say, be in front of the cameras, to uh, be part of the action, to never get a break. There's one moment in the outtakes that you don't see in the actual film where Ringo says something like, "You think we could get a 15-minute break from these cameras?" They were at them relentlessly, the reporters, the press, TV people, film crews. And, but still, for the most part, they were young, the Beatles, and they were fresh, and they were loving every minute of it, especially Paul. He loved the adulation, you could tell. And it was brand new, and to see them like this before they'd gotten tired of it and spoiled, and before it was like, enough already, I want to be anonymous again. I don't want everybody breathing down my neck and on my back all the time. But it was so special and different and new, I guess, to them, that it's fantastic. You get to see a little of Brian Epstein, of course, in the film. Uh, and so much other stuff, bits of the Ed Sullivan appearances, and of course bits of the Washington D.C. Coliseum show, and just behind the scenes stuff, some stuff with the fans, a couple of girls who actually managed to sneak up to their hotel room in New York's Plaza, and they get down the hall. I should say they almost make it into the room, but they get down the hall with the cameras on them. It's all very much a reality show type of thing. I forgot to say at the beginning that this film was originally entitled, I believe, something like, well, The Beatles, What's Happening in the U.S., or something like that. And The Beatles, What's Happening in the U.S. is now what's become the first U.S. visit commercially. And I can't say enough about it. It's so enjoyable. Every Beatle fan should check this out if you haven't already. As I say, I've seen it dozens of times, um, but it really manages to get a hold of a special point in time, and it's almost a precursor to the movie A Hard Day's Night. This is like a day in the life of the Beatles in a way, or a series of days in the lives of the Beatles, uh, before A Hard Day's Night would go and capture it officially as a motion picture. Um, but as I say, this is very important, this version, to get, because it does have extra footage, and the extra footage has a lot more coverage in it. A lot of footage of the fans. You get to see the fans of the day at the airport, interviews with the fans wearing the original NEMS white Beatles sweatshirts that I wish I had one, you know, and good stuff like Paul McCartney trying to help Albert Maysles get into the Ed Sullivan Theater, because they weren't members of the union, the Maysles brothers. They weren't able to get in there. They couldn't film the Beatles actually on the Ed Sullivan Show because of restrictions, union rules. So McCartney, there's a great scene where he's trying to say, "Come on, I'll try to get you in." Now he's talking to Brian. He wants to talk to Brian Epstein and see if he can get him in, but they weren't able to get them in to film. So what they do is, the two brothers, they decide to just go down down the hall of a tenement building, and while they're in the tenement building, they hear the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show from inside one of the apartments, and they kind of knock on the door when they're on the TV live and say, "Is it okay? We're making a film. Can we film in here?" And they said, "Sure." The family allowed them to film. So there's behind the scenes extras where you get to see. It's really a wonderful moment. Three young kids, actually young girls, getting to watch the Beatles for the first time really on American TV on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they're getting into it, and the oldest girl knows the words and she's singing, and they captured this moment of this family watching this little television set, seeing the Beatles debuting, and a whole new phenomenal experience. The whole world was like stopping for a moment to watch this incredible new group that was taking the world by storm. In the extra footage also, there's extra scenes with Brian Epstein, and I got to do a little mini interview with him in a car. He's in a taxi, and the cameras are in there with him, and a reporter is asking Brian. He's saying, I know the Beatles went out last night to the Peppermint Lounge with the DJ, Murray the K. Says, but to Brian Epstein, he says, "Did you get a chance to go out or do anything?" And I'm just thinking, Brian, his lifestyle had to be very secretive. I was wondering what he was thinking, when he was asked that question, when he's like, no, I couldn't get out or something. So there's great moments with Brian. The outtakes are every bit as good or better uh, if you've seen the whole proper film. Needless to say, once again, I highly recommend it. I didn't talk about this any sooner during the years I've made videos on the Beatles, because I don't know, I just never got around to it. But today being February 7th, and because many times on February 7th or 8th or 9th I pop this on, I thought I'd share it with you. Beatles forever, folks. Thanks for watching.